Thanksgiving meal in here later? Right, looks good. That looks real good. Okay, well, good morning again. This is our weekly meeting with you. I'm here, City Manager Peter Zanoni, but some of the staff is here as well, just to reintroduce them in case you're not familiar with them. We have Yvonne McHaney, our HR Director, Steve Vieira, Assistant to the City Manager, who oversees the Health Department. Sony, my assistant, just came in. We have Ray, Steve's assistant. And we have our AV folks that are our new protocol is to record this in case employees can't be here today, or in case we have to go back to see what we said. And then we have Chris and Valencia, his staff person, and Chris is going to talk today. We also have Jenny from the county, who I almost didn't recognize with that face mask covering you up, Jenny. That's great. And we have Miles Risley, the city attorney. And did I leave anybody out? I think that's it, right? Okay, good. So we anticipated a little bit of a smaller group today, and that's okay. We still wanted to meet with you. We know some people are already taking leave, which is great. We need to do that. And we'll meet today. We have somewhat of a full agenda, probably take us about an hour. A few persons in addition to myself will speak today, including Chris and Yvonne. And so on our agenda, we don't have copies passed out, right, you guys? No? Okay, no problem. So what we're going to do is we're going to update you since last week, what we've done since last week. We're going to have the county attorney speak about county matters and what they did this week. Jenny Dorsey's here. Yvonne's going to give us a human resources update. We're going to be posting some managerial positions starting today. So we want to give you an update on that. And then Chris is going to spend a little bit of time talking about employee focus groups. These are in addition to the work group and the programmatic areas. We want to get you all involved in, it looks like about 10 areas over here, Chris? Yeah, to including things like innovation, space planning, and so on. So we'll talk to you about that. Okay? So any questions before we begin? Okay, good. All right, good. So I'm going to talk to you about some of our updates. The city has hired legal counsel, and it's probably no surprise to the employees here. We heard from Judge Canales and Jenny as well. That there's a difference of opinion on can the city and can the county separate or withdraw from the district, right? Jenny's shaking her head. So both the city and the county have hired legal representation to help answer that question. It's one that has no case law history in the legal field. It's always great to have some prior case law, because that helps you to decide moving forward. But there is no case law in Texas on something like this. Nonetheless, we're able to use external legal team to help us answer that question. Okay, so our legal team, Miles, is we have Mick McHaney, who's the gentleman that's representing. And it's a long law firm name, what's the name of it?
Taylor, Olson, Adkins, Strala, and LLT.
Yeah, okay. Taylor Olkins, our representative, his name is Mick. Mick, that's his nickname.
Well named. Yeah, well known under Mick.
Yeah, Mick McHaney, and he specializes in municipal law. Jenny's going to talk to us in a little bit about what the county is doing. They had a commissioners court meeting this week, and I think that got continued into this coming Monday.
Yes.
So Jenny will talk to us in a moment about the county's position. So again, just so we want you to know, because you may see things in the media or here, and so the reason we've hired that law firm is to help answer that question. And then we may use external law teams as well to help us when we go through the grants process, any other questions that may come up. We have a pretty astute city attorney, and Jenny's obviously a very smart and astute individual herself, so we have some good teams both in the city and the county side, but it's not unusual to augment the teams with external legal teams. Okay, great. Any questions on that? Okay. Okay, so just in terms of the schedule, I probably should have gone over that first. We're meeting today, and we did it. It's looking pretty good in here. It's maybe a few less people, but because we're not going to meet next week, we wanted to meet again today. So next week is a short week, right? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and no Friday. And so we'll be back to see you not next week, but the following week, Friday. Okay, who's going to be off next week? Some or all the days? I thought you guys were cooking turkeys and stuff. No? Okay, well, we encourage you to take off, especially if you have leave time, right? We're off, the city's closed Thursday, Friday. I don't know, are our vaccine sites open Thursday, Friday? in the mall?
Not Thanksgiving
They're
Day.
not open on Thanksgiving Day or
Okay.
Christmas
But the
Day.
rest of the days, yes.
But Friday? Friday and the weekend, okay. Okay, well, take time off if you can, enjoy that break with the family. We'll have a more extended break at Christmas time frame this year. As we told you, City Council approved after we recommended closing non-essential services between the holidays of Christmas and New Year's. That's a whole week of leave that we'll get to be away from the job and enjoy ourselves and families and that type of thing. Okay, good. So the next item is a comprehensive plan. That's that big document we went over last week. I think it's about 3-4 pages. There's really no significant update on it, so we're not going to go over it again today. The one update, though, is what we'll spend time on later in the meeting, which is to talk about those work groups. And Chris Anderson's going to talk to us about that. So we're still moving along. Still, what is true is that the date of January 18 is most likely not going to be the date where everything switches over. Okay, that's pretty obvious, I think, as we progress more and more into this. So certain things can transition over more quickly than others. Just vital statistics. Who's our vital statistics folks in the room? We have a few at Seagrow. Okay, that's one of the things in our model here in Corpus Christi is unusual. In Texas, most cities, and especially those 7 above us that we always look at, 7 largest in population, they have the city secretary or the city clerk's office do that. And in fact, this week, our city secretary went to Victoria, Texas, to see how theirs works there, because over there, the city secretary, or city clerk, I'm not sure the title, does vital statistics, which we know the birth certificates, death certificates, and so on. So we're most likely that will be transitioned to the city secretary, but the details have to be worked out still. But that's a good example where that one will be an easier transition than maybe a more complex grant operation or something else that is a little more complex. So these things will most likely transition a little at a time. There may be a big batch for transition, and then some remainders still to transition out. And so the 18th is the target. That's the 90th day. That doesn't mean everything changes on the 90th day. Okay? Somebody have a question? Okay, good. Okay, now just the next thing, I talked about it, but later in the presentation, we're going to talk about those volunteer groups. And so there's about 10 focal areas. We talked about innovation as an example last week, but there's others that the team has put together, and we want your help, and we're going to talk to you about how you can sign up to help us on that. And then also human resources. Yvonne's going to talk momentarily on position recruitment and development of position titles and that type of thing. And before I turn it over to Jenny, though, who's going to speak on updates from the county, I did want to kind of talk to the group a little bit about mental health services and programs, more so to see what do we do in the health district. I was recently talking to police officer, Officer Barnes. Does anybody know Officer Barnes? He in the city is one of our probably few professionals that deals with mental health. And in the police department, he'll go out and try to address if there's an individual that's exhibiting some mental health issues. Rather than just arresting them and putting them in jail, he'll work through their issue with other professionals. So he's a mental health expert. But in our health district, do we have any mental health programming?
No, sir.
No, did we ever back in the day? Or
As far as I know, no.
that's one area where we're going to add to our list to see should we and what's the best practices. I'm not a mental health expert, but it seems like that would be a basic function we would have. In fact, one time I was presenting to a group, I think it was like the Rotary. And a young lady came up to me later, I think she was maybe 16, 17, she said, I need some help, some mental health help. Who can I call? I don't really know who to call. I'm at home with a single mom, and I just don't know what to do. The school can't help me. And I didn't really have a good answer for her. I said, well, the only person I know is that Officer Barnes, but that's probably not the best answer. So that's an example of, as we progress, we talked about innovation last week, that's an example where we may add that type of function to the new health department, right? It's a critical thing. It's an emerging issue across the country, not just locally. Okay, good. Okay, so with that, we're going to have Jenny, unless there's any questions on that introductory stuff. Okay, Jenny Dorsey from the county is going to talk to us about Commissioners Court. They met this week, late into the evening, and they recessed, and they're, I guess, reconvening Monday.
Yes.
Right, Jenny? Okay.
Yes. So the withdrawal was on the Commissioners Court for Wednesday. We went into 7:30 at night and decided to take a break until 7:30 the next morning. You may have seen some of that. And so they decided to wait until Monday. We had to notice a new meeting. And at that time, the outside counsel that we have hired, Steve Aragon, who is formerly lead counsel for dishes, will give his presentation to Commissioners Court. I have a wonderful table that Miles Risley shared with me that I am trying to get. Does everybody know about the table?
The table?
Of all the services?
Oh, did we?
Okay, I'm trying to get word and make sure that the table that I have covers all the services performed by the health district. And so first, I think I'm going to talk to Dr. Wilmot and make sure that there's nobody that's left out of our table to begin seeing where we go forward. So Monday morning, if you're interested, I would tune into Commissioners Court. Be at Commissioners Court if you have the ability, and that's where we are.
So did they actually hire your law firm?
Oh yeah, he's on.
Okay.
He's on. He's very on it, working on his presentation. He's in close contact with me and with the judge.
And what's the meeting on Monday?
That's the presentation on everything. It's a reiteration of what we've done before. We've talked about the possibilities moving forward, the obligations that the county has, and trying to also see what each body has the ability to take on. Some things are not able to be done by one entity or the other.
Yeah.
And so we're in the process of making sure statutorily that each entity has the ability to do what they want to do.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Is the county like the city, where they're trying to make every accommodation for every single employee, even taking on maybe some of the county employees, for example? Is there any type of, feelings on the county side, where you're looking at your employees' best interests? Like, what is it? What type of, I know there's no guarantees, but what type of comfort can you pass on?
I cannot speak for the commissioners on where they're going yet. They have to receive that presentation from Steve Aragon. I know that they are all considering and trying to do the best for the people that work for the county. That much is, yes. Anybody else? Yes?
Have any conversations taken place regarding location?
No, not yet. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am?
This table is just like a list of programs that are headed by the county and positions that are like county specific?
The table that we're going through is supposed to be all of the programs that are offered by the health district. So we know what we're parsing out. And if it's not complete, we'll make sure it is as we go. Yes, ma'am?
I'm sorry, I don't understand the table either, because it's like I work with Law County, or I'm sorry, I work with mainly city, but I'm county, so are you counting like tuberculosis as part of, the table, even though there's only one county employee working in there?
It doesn't matter. All services that are done by the health district must be considered about whether they're going to go one place or the other, or, be contracted for between the entities. Is that fair?
Yeah, the quote-unquote table can also be considered a list of services or programs. We have it, I think it's probably the same one that was created. So it's just a listing. It's set, when we worked with the city council, that was one of the questions, what do we do anyway as a health district? And so sure enough, we broke out that report, several pages, and it lists out all the programs that the health district does, regardless of where the employee or the funding comes from. Yeah.
Yeah. Is that anybody else? Yes.
Is that list available for review? I know you said you were going to talk to Luis about it, but is that available so the managers can make sure it's...
I don't know. I did not create it. I want to make sure that the creators are cool with that, but I will be updating it if it needs updating. I don't know that it does.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not top secret, so I think Annette is the one that we got it from. Steve probably got it from Annette. But we can actually, let's distribute that to everybody, just via email. Then when we meet with the employee work groups, each of the programmatic areas, that'll be a kind of that's when we'll see is everything really in there, but it doesn't hurt to pass it out. It's probably maybe on our website today, the Health District website, maybe or maybe not, but it's just a complete listing. There's a small narrative of each program, maybe some detail on funding source as well. Yeah.
Cool, all right.
Okay, good, thanks Jenny. We're gonna meet with Jenny later today at 1:30, and we've been meeting with the employees here at 9, and then we continue to meet with the county negotiating team at 1:30 every Friday. Those are standing meetings. Okay, good. All right, so we're going to move next to Human Resources update from Yvonne, and she has some important new information on position postings. And again, just recognize this is a work in progress, so this is not the only action we're taking, right? And it can be adjusted and that type of thing, right?
Good morning. I apologize in advance. This crazy weather is messing with my sinuses, but I'm gonna make it. So first and foremost, we are going to use a national recruiter for the director position for the public health or community health. We're kind of dancing around with the titles right now, but we're using Baker Tilly, and they're gonna do a national and local search for that position. And that's gonna take a little bit longer because I think the city manager spoke last week to the fact that we don't just wanna do a copy and paste. So we're trying to build out this job to make sure we cover all of these services. So today he spoke about mental health services. So that's something we need to add and incorporate into the oversight of that position, right? So we're working with the national recruiter to build up that job profile and post that. Our plan right now is to attempt to recruit top down. And so, because I think in the very second week meeting, someone spoke about, are the managers going to be a part of the recruitment decisions for the staff? And so we're working top down. We know that we'll have to do some of the management positions concurrently with that director role because that can take a much longer time period, probably up until January, because it's a big deal to build it out, get it posted, and then there's a process for the recruitment that they have to manage before they present a list of finalists for consideration. So concurrently with that, we're going to start posting in phases some of the management positions. I think that is key to having those managers hired, or at least knowing that they're coming on board so that they can be a part of those work groups that we're building out. So just to give you guys a couple of ideas, we're kind of phasing it in, but some of the positions that you'll see today are mainly those positions that fall within the city's general fund. So there's a promotions and support public health administrator. There's a prevention public health administrator. We have a TB clinic program manager, a lab manager, and an environmental consumer health services manager. So last week I told you guys that we did market analysis and market surveys. So it's easiest with those city positions that we already know how they work, we know how to pay them. And so those are the positions we're going to start with. I'm telling you that just so you can know what to look for on the site. Also letting you know that as we spoke about, those are positions that city and county employees will be able to apply to. Once we get through the managerial portion of that, we want to do what the city manager alluded to as kind of a modified recruitment process. And so when we get further down this process, people know the management positions have kind of started to wrap up. We'll start with we're going to do kind of a modified job fair for the staff positions that are not managerial. I think that's the easiest way to get all the applications in and then do a modified interview process. Otherwise, the process takes 2 weeks just for posting and waiting for people to apply. So we want to shorten that timeline up a lot by doing more of a modified process that will probably be in the form of a job fair that will allow people to come in and get their applications submitted. And then we'll talk to you guys about that shortened and modified interview process. Okay? We're not there yet, but we're taking it in phases. And so you'll start to see positions come up. And as we get the clearance to post jobs, we'll be communicating that with you guys so you know what's to come in case you're interested in applying. Okay?
Sorry, is this format going to be the way that we find out the positions are going to be open, or is there some sort of like electronic communication that will go out saying what positions are available?
We can send out emails. We can send out emails to let you guys know what positions are live. So once they get live, I can send it out to the group to say these positions are currently active for application on the site. Okay? Yes.
The job fair, is it going to be closed to us first and then opened up to the public?
Yes, the job fair will be, we won't do a job fair for external people necessarily, because they still have to apply through the website. Us bringing the job fair is so you all have one central place to come in and do your application. Human Resources will be on site to answer any questions that you have and talk you through the process. That way we make sure we get all of your information up front, as opposed to having to stretch it out for a 2 to 3 week period. Any other questions about that? Yes?
I have an independent, it's totally different. It has to do with retirement, something I spoke with Jay earlier today, this morning. So my concern is for the people who have several years, like myself, 11 years with the county. I've been speaking, this is something I've been doing ongoing because I had planned out my retirement, how I wanted to retire, when, should I say, I wanted to retire. And the way I understood was that the number of years you contribute to the institution is, will depend on the money you receive at the end of your retirement when you get ready to retire. So it's the number of years, like TCDRS, I've been contributing to TCDRS for 11 years. So the more I contribute to the same institution, is the amount of money they calculate, and that's depending on the number of years of service, that's what you're going to receive. It's greater, your annuity is greater.
Okay.
Okay? So my concern is, and I know that your legal team is working with the two institutions, TMRS and TCRS, but if there's no way to remedy that, because we have a lot to lose. So if I stop at 11 years, I lose like $400 at the end, if I decide to go with another institution, okay? To avoid that, are there any other options that the city be willing to consider? Like the option that I could just think of right now would be the option of like the county being a unique temporary services for the county employees. So in other words, until the grant, the lifespan of the grant, or if the grant should say, hey, we can no longer fund this grant, then the city will still have control of HR and everything. That is obviously, from last week, I got a good idea that that's basically having one boss, right? So, with that in mind, the city would still fall under the city's HR, the city's everything. But the only difference is we would be contracted through the county, like a unique temporary services, and if our grant should end, of course, then the city would tell the county, hey, we no longer need this individual, the grant has ended, or this individual is done. Or if there's other issues with HR issues, whatever, we don't need this individual, everything would stop, that would be one option to consider. So that way, the people who are already vested would not lose any money, because $400 for the kind of income we make here is a lot. It's a light bill, it helps with rental, whatever the case, we don't know what our future holds, right? So I just want you guys to consider everything, because we're in a very delicate situation with county employees, and that's a lot to ask from us to lose, especially when it has to do with finances, right? Because you're talking about someone's livelihood. So when y'all go to the table, please keep in mind that we're people, and I know you are, your best interest is to serve, to help us, because that's a lot to ask someone to give up. And that's something that I've done research and I've looked into, and you'll find that out as you do your research and you're looking. But I just wanted to bring that up, because all ends of the financial part of the employee really needs to be considered. And that's what I have to say.
Your name is Letty, right? Okay. I think, and I just want to clarify your statement. I don't know that I'm the best person to answer it, but I just want to clarify it. I think what you're saying is that in the interest of your retirement,
Yes.
at the point in which this transition takes place, you would like for the city to discuss or consider keeping you as a contract employee rather than moving you over to a city employee to allow you to remain under TCDRS?
Yes, because if that's the only reason why I would want to stay as a county employee. But nothing would change. I mean, the city manager still has control over us as county employees that are vested, that have, you know, given a lot of years. Some of them have more years than you, like 20 or 15 or 16. And so what I'm saying is that those who have that much to lose, to please consider keeping us under a contract. Y'all would have control over everything, firing, hiring, whatever the case might be. That wouldn't change. But so that we wouldn't lose anything as in our TRS, or TCDRS, we would just like for you guys to consider to keep us contracted under. And if our grant should end, because we have our grant, well, the grant that I fall under, it has 10 years, but every 3 years, you know, it decides whether it can continue or not. So with that in mind, the third year comes and the 6th year of my service with this transition. And then they say, HHSC says we can no longer fund this. Then of course you would let us know and then the county, you know, would stop. That would be like any other position, right? But, or let's say there's an issue with my performance, right? Then the city has the power to tell the county, we don't want this employee anymore, you know, stop. Everything would be still under control with the city, okay? But, so we could keep our retirement the way it is and keep gaining from it, not losing. We would want that part, you know, for the ones that have invested, because the other ones that are less, 7 years or 8 years less, I don't know, I think it's 8 years with the county, can still take their monies and put it in an annuity or roll it over. They won't lose anything. The ones that stand, because they don't have the years to be, you know, vested years. But the ones that do are the ones that are already vested, who have contributed to this institution for the longer period of time. You understand what I'm saying? So those are my concerns, and that's something that needs to be brought to the table. And how could y'all accommodate us into that? Because money is when it comes to, you know, that's, and as we don't want to lose anything either, and you know, that's something that needs to be considered.
Okay. Yeah, I think I get it. It was very detailed. I think I followed you, but yes, I think the TCDRS and TMRS conversation has a lot more to be explored. So let us keep doing some research, and then we'll be able to start providing you with some answers and more detailed conversation about that.
Right.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? Sorry about that. No. Okay. Thank you.
Yvonne, let me just repeat some of the things. So that for the director, we're using a national recruiting firm.
Yes.
Baker Tilly is the name. We have them under contract with the city, and we've used them for when we were recruiting for the police chief. We've used them for parks director, 2 assistant city managers. So they're a big firm from Chicago area. Based in Chicago, but we use them. It's not unusual to use them for director positions in the city. And then how many positions in the managerial will be posted today? Approximately, was it?
5 today.
5 today. Okay, there's 5 today, and we'll email the entire work group, the entire district, whether you're city or county employee, just so everybody knows. That email will come from who? Yvonne, one of your staff members? Okay, so look for Yvonne and Jamie, and that email will summarize exactly what positions we're going to post today. And as Yvonne said, those are general funded positions, so it's not like some of the grants where we're still negotiating with the county, and they're not county positions. So those are, okay, they'll be posted for 2 weeks, and those, is that internal only?
Yeah, and we're only doing 2 weeks because it's the holiday.
Okay,
So
2
they're
weeks
about-
being what, 3 days next week and a full week? Today, 3 days next week, and then the full next week.
Yeah, so it'll close out the Friday after, which is like December or something at the end of the day.
Yeah, that Friday when we come back to see you. And those are just internal only, right?
Yes.
Okay, so that's good. So it's only internal applicants, so that they're not posted externally. And you said there's going to be like a job fair, or what you said?
So once we get through the management level recruitment,
Yes.
we'll do more of a job fair for all the rest of the staff.
Okay, so
So those
that-
100 level positions.
Okay. Okay, good. But reach out just to Yvonne or Steve if you have questions about the application process, about anything, your resume, what you may want to attach, that type of thing. Don't be afraid to call us if you think, I don't know if I can call or not, because I'm an employee, I don't know if it's the right thing to do to call. It's always the right thing to do to call if you have questions and if you need advice and guidance. So err on the side of calling us, don't be afraid to. Does somebody have a question? You guys have- Okay. Okay, any questions on that then? So we'll follow that up with an email. Maybe do another one next week, in case a reminder. We can do a reminder Monday, and then we'll do a reminder the next Monday for those employees that aren't here today. There's a few that are out. Okay, good. So that's it. So that's it on the positions then. So our last item on the agenda today, we're going to talk about employee focus groups. And again, we talked about this, remember there's 2 goals and kind of 1 principle. The 2 goals we have in mind are better health outcomes for the community, right? That's why the City Council approved this transaction. And then the second one is the employee. We want to make sure the employees are treated fairly, correctly, as Letty talked about, one of her concerns that we're all listening intently. So we have the employees at mind and at heart, and the same thing for the community with better outcomes. We know, though, that you all are the experts and the professionals in the field, and so we need you to help us make this successful for you. We talked about we want a better work environment, and we want better health outcomes. You all are going to be the people that help us do that. And so that tees us up to hear from Chris. So in addition to those programmatic work groups, we talked about the table of the list of programs, where we'll be meeting with the staff and work groups to better understand what we do, what you do. That's something that's going to happen. In addition to that, though, we have about 10 additional work groups that we want to form to talk about other matters that we're going to deal with in the transaction, or the transition. Thank you. The transition. And so I'm going to turn it over to Chris. Chris is our, what's your title, Chris?
Strategic Planning and Innovation Officer.
Okay, he's Strategic Planning and Innovation Officer. He's the lead and one of our units that we created 2 years ago. And the staff's job is to look at service delivery and how can we perform it better.
They've done numerous studies along the way in the past 2.5 years. And
so this one, this is a good one where he's helping us on this one. So Chris?
Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
All right, so as the city manager and assistant city manager have described, the big important piece that, is crucial to this transition is hearing the employees' voices. So based on the couple of meetings that I've attended, I think my first one was maybe on the 5th, the 8 groups that we've proposed are based on the feedback that we heard from you all. So again, these focus areas are vary based on only that feedback. So if we're missing one, I think it would be great for us to maybe create another, but we want to start with these voices and we want to start with these concerns and kind of build outward from there. So to go over quickly, the first of the 8 is the innovation group. So again, I know the focus last week was talking about how we do what we do and if we can do it way better. So that's going to be a group that if you have ideas of how to improve a process, or if something seems like it just doesn't line up, we want those ideas because again, y'all are closest to the work and you work the processes, so bring us your ideas and we can talk about how we can implement those changes. Another one is the asset management, inventory and supplies. One of the things that the city managers talked about is the various amount of inventory and who owns what. We want people that are very close to those items and know what's where to be on this group because again, y'all are closest to it and you know where the things are, so we're going to call this group together to help us do that. It would be important for this group to be comprised of folks from different divisions or different sections across the district. So please consider that when you're looking at which of these groups that you'd like to volunteer for. Another one is building maintenance and facilities. As we heard in some previous meetings, putting in work orders for maybe routine things. We want to hear what the building maintenance concerns are so that we can help to develop, you guys can help us develop a list of priority projects. So I'm hearing some side comments, but yes, this is why it's important. We want the voices because again, this is your house. We want to know, where the leaky pipes are, things like that. Another focus group that we've proposed is a space planning group. So as this building is the face of the health district, and when the community comes in and they need to interact with the various services that they need, we want to, of course, have it laid out in the way that makes the most sense for the community. So if you guys have ideas about, this is also kind of follows along innovation, where if 80% of your clientele comes here for something, but they're located on the third floor in the back corner, it doesn't really, make a lot of sense. So we want those voices there as well when it comes to space planning. Oh, I failed to show you guys this, I'm sorry. What we're gonna do is at the end of the meeting, I have 2 sets of these. So again, I know y'all are probably familiar with the QR code for the time of COVID, but what we're gonna do is we have these set up as Microsoft Forms. It's kind of like a Survey Monkey. If you've ever filled out something like a Survey Monkey, you'll scan the QR code, fill out the 4 brief questions, and then hit submit. Make sure you hit submit so we know that that's one of the groups that you want to be on. So again, sorry to interrupt, but I'll make sure these go out. After space planning, we have a marketing and branding group. Again, as we develop logos and messaging and things like that, if you have a PR or a marketing kind of mind, or even if that's not an area that you work in right now, but you do have those ideas, we encourage you to volunteer for this group. Man, do you have a question, ma'am? If I'm just going to go through these last few and I'll be right there. Sorry about that. Okay. The next one, of course, based on some complex issues that we heard earlier, is a human resources group. This group would be tasked with bringing those HR-related concerns that you're hearing from colleagues, or maybe you have the concerns yourself. We want to make sure to get those addressed quickly. So the human resources group is also a really critical one. The next to last is partner agencies. We want to make sure that we have a good inventory of who's out there, which local partners or nonprofits provide those services. And again, we know we have a lot of historical knowledge in this room and not even in this room and across the district. So we want to make sure we have those perspectives as well. And lastly, we have a grant programs group where they're going to be able to give us some perspectives on either underutilized grants or just kind of the nitty-gritty of our grants operations. So that's a really quick explanation of the 8 groups that we've developed so far. I believe we're going to post this on the website as well. So if you don't, for people that are not here, they can actually register for a group that way. We're looking at possibly keeping this open for a full week. I know next week is a short week, so if we need to keep it open a little bit longer, or if you have other folks that are interested and missed that, just to have them reach out to me or Valencia. My email is really simple. It's just canderson@cctexas.com. And Valencia, I think you're Valencia G, right? So Valencia G @cctexas. I'm sorry, ma'am.
My question was that this is my first meeting that I've attended on those groups are composed of city and county employees, or just city?
City and county, thank you. Yes, ma'am. Anybody in the district? Any other questions about the focus groups? Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you, Chris. Okay. Chris, just a couple of questions. So is there a limit to the number of individuals in the work group?
For some of them, I think the more perspectives would of course be better. Innovation for one, I don't think it would make sense for us to put a cap on that. For others, I'm talking a little bit more with Steve about what would be, there's a balance between where it becomes, where you miss productivity because there's too many cooks in the kitchen, as it were. But again, I don't want us to miss out on those perspectives. So we'll talk more through that.
Okay. Okay, good.
Oh, if we can add one thing.
Yeah,
sorry.
go ahead.
One more thing, guys. What we're going to do with these focus groups is of the work group, like Yvonne and myself and some other folks, they're actually going to be like the liaison. So we have somebody that's going to help to lead each of these meetings and kind of coordinate with the people that are interested in the groups so we can, definitely have that one voice as well. So we'll have folks like all of us involved in these groups as well.
Okay, so the liaison, somebody from outside the health district?
Correct, just to be,
Okay.
to help coordinate the work group. So like HR folks would be in.
Okay. Okay,
Is there
good.
another question?
Yes, ma'am?
I guess I just wanted to see, like, proposed times for these, so I know I probably have some staff that want to be parts of this, but they have their staff duties that they were hired to complete, and so just being able to kind of manage doing both of these things, like how would we fit that into their schedule? If we knew, like, was this going to be like during lunch, so then would they be compensated for their lunch time if they participated in these groups? And so how that was kind of going to look going forward.
We definitely wanted to, first things first, we wanted to get the lists together, see who's interested in which groups. And then as we move forward, what I was going to do is actually put together, not a charter, but I was going to put together what each of these groups really want to accomplish. So I'll sit down with each of the liaisons so we can develop that. That is a good consideration so that we don't want to miss out on somebody because it conflicts with what their schedule is. So we'll think of a way that we can accommodate for that. So once we have the lists put together, we can put the schedule together based on everybody's best availability.
That's good. And so the timeline, you said they'll be open for this week coming up, the 3 days or following?
We thought of initially closing it by next Friday just so it's open for a solid week. But again, I know that with it being a short week, yeah.
It'll be 3, okay. So maybe mid to end of, not next week, but the following week.
Okay, we can do that.
Right.
Yeah.
But you may start meeting with some sooner?
If the groups fill up, but again, if we, that's a good point, because if we keep the registration for the groups open longer, we could initiate the groups getting started so that we could at least start to get those perspectives.
Yeah.
And if the group is still open and it does grow, if y'all are on board with that, then we can definitely do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, good. So it's probably through the month of December, I would imagine, right, that the work groups will meet? December, maybe the first week in January. So maybe as many as 5 weeks. And I think once the group's formed, as Chris said, then whatever the consensus is of the group in terms of meeting time, it could be that, hey, we need to meet during lunch, or we need to meet at 7 before we start at 8, that type of thing. But if they did work through lunch, we would pay them, yeah. Was there another question? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Marie. And my question is, these are all going to be taking place here at the health department, these gatherings, correct?
Yeah, I think so.
Or
Right?
we have to travel to City Hall or whatnot?
Yeah.
Either in person or WebEx. I mean, another benefit of how we've kind of grown through this has been to go, engage remotely. So we could definitely do it that way. I think that would be productive for everybody.
Yes.
Good point, right? Yeah, just for, the question was, where will the work groups meet? Where will they meet? So it could be here, if they're in person, most likely here, since that's where the majority of the employees are. It could be at City Hall or some other remote location, or it could be via WebEx, as Chris said. Yes, ma'am?
Hi, Chris Elda. I had another question. So I used to work for the university, and we would have other universities come by to kind of see our processes and things like that, to kind of, innovate, grow, things like that. Is during these work groups, will we have the option or the opportunity to maybe learn from other health departments and kind of see how we can implement them with our departments?
One of the table that was being discussed earlier is actually something that we created so that we're looking at what our top 7 cities above us do. We're not so far as looking at processes, but we definitely started with programs. And as we've been reviewing websites, some of those light bulbs have gone off like, oh wow, that's a great idea, similar to what the city managers discussed regarding mental health services. So again, with a shorter time frame, I'm not sure exactly if we'll be able to do field trips and things like that, but definitely if
or even like Zoom meetings or any type of collaborations with other health departments.
Priscilla, if you know of other health departments that do something a particular way, or if anybody, if you guys know of that, let us know. Again, my email is canderson@cctexas.com, and that would be great because we could at least maybe task that with these employee focus groups. Because again, we have people that are very interested and have these ideas. We want to, you guys know it better than we.
Yeah, great questions, you guys. Any more questions on the work group? Okay, and just to repeat, so these are in addition to the work groups, we'll do the focus groups at the programmatic level, right? Those are going to be important as well. And those are in our work plan for one of the more emerging ones. And Griselda talked about best practice analysis and having other people give us thought process as we create the new department. I did want to remind us that we're assembling a group of health experts from across the city, maybe the region, that also want to talk to us. A lot of them have emailed that we're getting 1 or 2 requests a week. I think they're still coming in. So there'll be leaders of hospital districts, hospital systems, leaders of nonprofits that provide health services across the area today. Those meetings are going to take place with those professionals soon. And they'll also, like you, give us input about what we could do to have a higher performing health department for the community. Yes, ma'am?
I was just gonna say, and I think it's great that we're going out and looking for other ideas and what would fit. But I think also it would be good to look at what our demand is here and in the rural areas, because we can create our own model as well. And we can innovate, we can just pick the ones that our community demands.
Right.
And like if it's behavioral services, then expand there and find a good model to follow from other universities. But also figure out what our demand here, because when we did the RRT and we serviced the rural areas and communities, we learned that there's other services that maybe we could form and offer a community and build their own model instead of trying to mimic so much somebody else's model. Because what's good for them are not necessarily good for us.
Right.
And just create it and build it from there, but yet take the ones that they do have that are working really well, and maybe we can get ideas from that, like behavioral services, find out which one does a great behavioral service, and then learn what their model does and try to implement it, but see what our demand is locally in the community and grow from that.
Right.
Build that.
Yeah, that's a great comment, Letty. So remember that too. It's not, we talked about it last week, this isn't the cut and paste, a copy and paste, right, from the health district to the health department. Innovation and new service delivery is something that's welcomed as well. So think about that as well as health experts that deal in this area. If there's something we're not doing today, and we should be, like mine thought this morning on mental health, then let's bring that to the table as well. And, we compare ourselves to the 7 cities, but often people compare us as well. They look to see what Corpus Christi is doing. And so we don't always just copy what other people are doing. We're innovators ourselves right here in Corpus Christi and in the coastal Bend region. As an example, we were one of the first in the state of Texas to have weekly, actually daily, briefings to the community on the pandemic. We were one of the first to have mega drive-thrus, even though there was some folks, not everybody was happy with them, but we were one of the first that perfected that. So people looked at us. We may have been one of the first that did services in the mall. I don't think we copied that from anybody else. We just, I think Annette had the idea, maybe with the county judge. And so we're leaders and trendsetters as well. And so this new health department is not just taking some of the old and bringing it over. It's whatever we have today, it's making it better, but we may also introduce new services that we don't have today. So thank you, Letty, for bringing that to our attention. Okay, good. The agenda that we laid out for us this morning is complete at this point, so I want to, we have a few minutes before 10 o'clock, see if there's any other additional questions from the community. What time is your lunch at today? 12? Well, you're lucky I have one at City Hall, otherwise I would have come over there. Yeah. Okay. Then I don't know if we said it in the beginning, but we're recording this, but it's also has been live posted on Facebook, and that's what we'll do going forward from our great team that we have at City Hall, our communications team. So I think there was about 21 people watching or so a few minutes ago when I was looking. So it's archived as well, so if people want to look back at this, if there's an employee in your work group that's not here today, you can show them the tape. There's actually, do we send the links out or something, Chris? Who sends the links out?
I know we can. Yeah,
We can,
send it
Dave.
out, 'cause it's on, if you go to YouTube, City of Corpus Christi, you'll see it on there, but we'll also be able to send a link out.
Okay, we'll include it on Yvonne's email, maybe just so there's not a whole bunch going out today. So Yvonne will send you the link to the recording of this meeting. We want to thank the county, Jenny, for being here today. She's a great partner. We're still working closely with them, even though we talked about additional legal teams. We're working closely. That's our commitment to the community and to you all. And so our next step then includes forwarding that information to you in terms of the 5 job postings that will go out today, sending you the link to the video, and then we'll be back here, not next week, but the following week, Friday. What is that date, that Friday?
December the 3rd.
December 3rd? Okay, December 3rd, we're going to be back here, the same team, but as always, come see me, call Steve, email, come see him. We're at City Hall, the 5th floor. This is about communicating, over-communicating. We want to make sure that we do this right and do it, as Letty brought up. We're going to take care of all those concerns. We want this to be as smooth of a transition as possible for the employee. Okay, so with that, happy Thanksgiving. Take some time off next week, and we'll see you on December 3rd.
I'm gonna